And we're back for part two. So we were talking about Brazil bringing a formal court case, a formal lawsuit against Nintendo over them having the ability and actively bricking consoles. Um, we we're just gonna bring up the document. Procon SP is the pro consumer
Oh
company
yeah.
in Brazil, and Procon is going to take on the Joy-Con, and
Buttons.
it's apparently Procon is one of the few. Brazil is a country famous for kind of having a lot of anti-consumer practices. There's a lot of bad business done down there. They're a country that has pretty doesn't have a lot of consumer protections. But Procon's famously one of the few very pro-consumer organizations within Brazil. So they have a great reputation. People like Procon because they will go to bat for people. Um, and that means that there's a lot of support in Brazil for them, meaning that they've got grassroots support within their own country. But it's important to note that they're taking on a big company. They're taking on a company who claims to have the right to do this. But what's paramount before we begin talking about the court case or any of these things, I think that what they're doing is setting precedents. They're getting the ball rolling because even if, and it will, the court case will fail, Nintendo will win. It's a foregone conclusion.
Well, thank
But
you.
they are getting the world to talk about this because, as we mentioned in the first part of this video, when Apple was challenged by the EU over their uh, charging points, they
Mhm.
said no, from consumer rights, all electronics, or at least most electronics, have to go through a standardized plug point because every device having a different plug is an undue burden on consumers. Having everything use the same plug means you only need one or two chargers and you can charge everything, which, gotta say, I love that. But more than that is that once they did it in one part of the world, it just became standard across the rest of the world because it put too much pressure on the company to differentiate. If Brazil brings this court case to the international tribunals, to international attention, it's going to open up the doors to other companies, entities, other countries to begin looking at this, going, yeah, they're right, they are right. And now Nintendo's a massive company, and they're talking about their own product. So we give companies a massive leeway on their own products. But this is such an egregious step that I think that this could be the beginning of a wave of actions taken against this practice, which would be great. But I had a weird thought. It came off from the idea, the kind of 4D chess move that Nintendo were making by bricking their consoles. We see the second-hand market flooded with bricked consoles, which will
That's a good
inevitably
point.
cause some consumers who want to switch to buy one cheap second-hand, and oh, they bought a bricked one, it's worthless. But it does give people who want to work around this a lot of resources, a lot of spare parts to start tinkering with it. I thought, oh, now that Nintendo are breaking consoles, they're going to have tinkerers are going to have a lot more chances to play. They've got a lot more. They can pick up cheap bricked consoles and start tinkering to their heart's content to see how they can get around it. But my esteemed colleague MatMadik, during our little break, we had a little toilet and a pee break, a breath of fresh air. Um, he brought to light that Switch 2 has already been hacked. That people have built upon this and have already begun, and the information is beginning to disseminate. There are hacked Switch 2s already out in the world. People have taken them apart, hacked the hardware, put them back together. They are fully functional in record time. Perhaps I don't know how fast some of the other ones were done, but it
Pretty fast.
does. I may be Nintendo's fears about hacking their consoles were justified. Were kind of, yo, we live in a very different time. You know, we live in a new age where there is a certain expectation that most people are reasonably tech savvy. They're able to work around it. There's very few people who can't, you know, set up your Wi-Fi, set up a VPN. They know, have some level of like, media literacy and tech literacy. And the fact that it's so commonplace now means that the number of people who are tinkerers, people who are coders, are just enormous. We've got more now than we've ever had. So it was only really a matter of time before someone figured a way of getting around Switch 2's defenses. But damn, man, it's been what, like a month? It took a month, and already people have broken it. Now I'm not gonna show you the video talking about this. We're not gonna show you because top comment is basically a how-to guide. It step by step talks about the logistics and the science behind how you do these things. And if we put that up on our channel, we run the risk of demonetization and problems.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I do that.
I think it's worth, if you are interested in this, it's worth looking at. Should we name the channel?
Yeah. Why not? You know, let's
Yeah, I think okay. It's the System Decoded. Boop, 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 boop. Share. This is the dude.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Very tired. Looking like Dr. Robotnik's stooge in the Sonic movies. But but thanks. There you go, people. We
Switch
did
to
lots of reviews.
CPU hack updates. Nintendo is mad. What have hackers found? The System Decoded. He goes into detail, the specifics. We're not going to go into that because we're not a tech channel. We're a conversational channel. We're more of a discussion channel. But if that's something you are interested in, yeah, you could take a look at it.
Definitely.
But
thanks for sharing that, by the way.
those fears were apparently warranted. But ultimately, it's an undue burden on the average gamer. Most gamers aren't going to do that. I haven't hacked my Switch. I purchased it. I bought legitimately. I used it frequently. I haven't used it in a while because honestly, I've got other games I'm playing, other devices. In previous videos on this channel, we talked about how the gaming landscape has changed. We don't have the big three anymore. The big console producers are no longer the only game in town. There are lots of other companies coming up that are producing high quality handheld devices that can keep up. You know, you can play games on those things. And I purchased games from Steam, which I then take the code on those and I put them on my handheld. Countdown 3, 2, 1. I've brought back my little baby. I've shown him off a number of times. My little MatMadik SP. Set the game dimensions, same dimensions or similar dimensions to things. But I have a number of PC on this. I've ported over. I've even put Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge, the latest Ninja Turtles game, on this. And I gotta say, it plays amazing. I can't do the online feature. That apparently it's possible, but you have to go into the woodworks and get this to work, to connect to the servers. And because it's like a third-party device, it's a lot of workarounds you have to do. I've heard it's possible. I haven't done it myself, so I only play single player. But that said, when I'm on the bus, pulling this out, loading it up, and playing PC games on this thing that I purchased, I bought the game because it was the only way I could get access to the actual game data.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. My
But
gosh. I mean,
but that's the ethos of emulation. Is if I purchase this game, I can do with it what I want. I can play the game I want the way I want to play it. That is the ethos of the old order, the old world version of consumer protection. If you buy a product, that product should be yours. You can do with it as you will. If I wanted to try and hack that game, it's mine. I should be able to do that. And in PC gaming, we have long had a robust modding scene for games. You know, if you buy a game, you can also buy third-party kind of hacks to improve the quality of the game, to change the visuals, to add Thomas the Tank Engine, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, this is dude. This
Ah,
is so true. Oh my gosh, you got me thinking. This situation we have right here. Let, let me see. If I was to use an analogy, which I'm formulating in my mind right now, it okay. It's a bit like okay, schools. I never, people. I never went to prom. I kind of regret that. I do, although I did go through this summer school, this club party that we had going on. I scared girls with my poor dancing at that point, which my wife laughs at me about to this day. But anyway, that being said, what I'm brought it all up to say is, if you and I've gotten better at dancing since, if you host a party, uh, and I'm not even a big party goer, but let's just say, okay, let's say you host a party and it it ends at 6. I mean, I'm sure you've been to a party as of late. I think you mentioned last time we were talking, you there's like a party you visited, but it closed late, or because I know in Japan we have like the trains that shut up at 11 or what have you. People have to be responsible when you're leaving these parties and what have you. Um, it's fun, but there's a limit feeling around it in terms of
mm,
I can't stick around, even though I'd like to just get hammered and just hang out until God knows when. I have to know that I can't get home if I don't leave at a certain time or what have you. And if you're driving, you're kind of forget drinking altogether. But let's say, I know, I've got a good example. The movie, it's The Social Network. If a party has to end by 11, it's not cool. The party has to end at 6. I know I sound like a big square, everybody. I'm just not a party goer. But what I'm trying to say is the Switch 2 feels like you're bringing the principal to sit at the back of the bus with you and the principal's going to give detention to anybody who's using swear words talking to each other on the
yeah,
bus.
yeah, like
Yeah, and it's like, yeah,
yeah, how can you unwind and have fun if there's an authority figure right there?
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So whereas YouTube, look, we found out about all this stuff and the hackers and what have you, and even some of the new consoles and the mods through YouTube. Now, YouTube, of course, has their ways of, I think it's called title something protection. Oh, I forgot. There's certain ways that they are able to not claim responsibility for what people say on their platform. I
Oh
mean, it's
yeah,
very
they
kind.
have there are electronic entertainment or electronic information protections. When the internet started out, there certain rules were implemented that protected um, platforms from the content portrayed within. So if someone posts a video on YouTube and the video is offensive, YouTube can take it down because it's within their terms and services. You have to follow their guidelines. But if someone is offended by a video on YouTube, you can't sue YouTube. You can only
Yeah,
go after the
it
person
should
who
be.
posted the video. It's a degree of
Mm,
separation between the content and the platform on what you're watching the content. And then for a long time,
exactly.
they've kind of used that as a defense for a lot of things.
Mm. And arguably, yeah, I can say it's like if I make a phone call, you can't sue Apple for somebody saying they're going to kill me on
Yeah.
that iPhone. Yeah. Now that's the thing. So you have that kind of level of separation, and when you have that, people feel free enough to actually make those threats in the first place. Nintendo has to have that kind of degree of separation. I'm not saying they should encourage people to be all violent on the platform, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
saying
no.
that yeah, but I'm saying that you want to uh
People should have the freedom to take chances and make mistakes within their environment and not feel like they're restricted. People want to tinker, they want to try different things, and then from that, whether you're tinkering with the hardware, whether you're developing unique software, games, or gameplay
mm,
mechanics, having someone breathing down your neck saying you can and you can't do this is very restrictive, and
yeah,
it cuts down, it prohibits, freedom.
absolutely. What you said, I think it's an analogy, just to wrap it up, what my rambling. I think what you said is very good. Banning people from the eShop is one thing, banning people from the console hardware is another, which is the equivalent of saying, YouTube, if YouTube doesn't like me and wants to knock one of my channels, fair enough, almost fair enough in some cases, but if they want to shut down the computer, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
saying, I'm like saying, hey, now who are you? Now the thing is, Nintendo says, well, we own the computer. it's like you're using a Chromebook or something, and
Yeah.
we own Google, we own the Chromebook, we own all this stuff, so we're gonna mess up your computer. Then it's like, let's forget this is not worth it, right? So here we are today, and we've got a situation where people are taking to the streets. If the courts don't do it, then the hackers will try. And you just may have some people trying to bring freedom back that way. I've been saying for a long time, Dan, when we were talking about the camera feature, which I haven't heard much of a buzz about as of late, but um, Nintendo needs to get their street cred back after this, because if they got street cred with this thing, and like I said, less about some of um the bring back the rod, if you will, or let's not put some of the litigious that they have on social media, for example. Like, just say somebody wants to use a chat feature to do a YouTube video, and it's going to get you paid
Mm.
more than if you were to do something on your own. And all of a sudden, people would look the other way when it comes to the other loss. I mean, this would be a great loss leader if they were to still hold tight onto this nonsense bricking system, which is going to be overcome by hackers at some point. I bet you. But in certain communities, but with the reach of the internet, word will spread and blah blah, and the rest will be history. But they need if they get the more street cred they have, like what they have with their IPs, the nostalgia that they have with their IPs, which is what keeps people coming back. You
Yeah.
can't, you want, yeah. If they bank on the goodwill of the public, that will get them out of this. But I hope there's
The
something.
trouble is
I
that
don't know. What do you think?
you make an interesting point. Nintendo has a long-standing pedigree, and they've always been seen as kind of the fun, do it their own way. They haven't been keeping up with modern gaming trends. They haven't been keeping up with modern technological advances. They've always kind of just done their own thing, and that worked for them because we liked the IP, and we, for the most part, we liked what they were doing. I mean, the Wii was terrible as a console, but it released some absolutely banger games, and it was very pick up and play, and it was a fun way of accessing it. They tried to capitalize on that with the Wii U. Didn't work, but they piloted an interesting technology. They used that to develop the Switch. The Switch went gangbusters, absolutely just so successful that during that time, we had the old guard leave, we had Doug Bowser step in, we had new leadership take over, and they have been making very, 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 very contemporary, very modern business practice decisions, and those are capitalizing on money. People have said before, Nintendo, if they just took up certain practices, they could make so much more money. They're leaving money on the table by making their consoles accessible and pick up and play, very family friendly. But now it looks like they're trying to capitalize on that money. Maybe because, as we've argued on this channel before, the company is diversifying its portfolio. It has massive investments in other areas. And until those things are up and running and are making steady revenue streams, because their theme parks are massive upfront investments, and
Yep.
they will make a lot of money in the long run. But getting those things built and set up and getting the resources put in place, that's huge. I can't even imagine how much money it costs. And movies are a gamble, a very famously so. They're a terrible investment if you want to make money, because a movie could be wildly successful and make a ton of money, or it could be terrible. I mean, famously, the Ninja Turtles
Batman movie.
1990s movie was made for like 13, 15 million, and by the time of the second movie, it had made 130. It made 100 million more than they invested, and that kind of money, then, wow, it was staggering. But you get other films that people put a lot of money into, like Valerian, and there was a film a few years back based on a pretty popular fantasy IP, fantasy sci-fi IP. It was like Valerian and the Thousand Worlds or something. Valeria and the Thousand Worlds, something like that. Sorry, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Yeah, That's it. It was a
Okay.
2017 sci-fi movie. It was based upon a long-running French comic book series. It had some pretty decent actors. They invested a lot of money, and yeah, it only grossed a couple, considered a massive box office bomb. People put money into it. They thought they had a good thing going, and it was garbage. And Nintendo is going into that field. You know, they're beginning to make movies, which cost a lot of money up front and could be successful. It's a gamble. So them trying to draw more money from their primary market, yeah, I get it. And maybe they're
Me too.
concerned about hacks and emulation because it's so more prevalent now. It's so much more accessible. Anyone can do it easily. I mean, you just go online, put in ROMs, emulators, and bam, you got classic games on your computer, on your phone. My brother, he plays Pokemon games and Pokemon hacks on his phone. Just uses it like a Game Boy. It's got a little
Mm.
control panel at the bottom, screen at the top, and just plays it like a Game Boy, and he loves it. And
Yeah.
it's so easier now that it's understandable that Nintendo has taken steps to try and
Yeah. That's the
mitigate
thing.
those potential losses. But I don't think that they are potential losses. I think that you were right before that when you create a warm environment, when you create a pleasant place where people can play, people can unwind, a platform that people want to go to. It's not a zero sum game. Those sales that people who emulate aren't losses for the company. It's only encouraging them to play more, which will encourage them to play the mainstream main games. You know,
Yeah.
it's never a zero sum game because we don't play. It's not one for one. If I'm playing a game, a ROM on one thing, it's encouraging me to play, which encourages me to play more, which is mean, yeah, I'm gonna buy. Okay, I've gone on to Steam
Exactly.
sales and bought a whole ton of games because I wanted one game, and while I was there, well, there's a bunch of other things that strike my fancy. It's already on sale, so I bought those as well. I got a whole ton of games for my Switch that I haven't played yet, but I picked them up
Yeah.
because I enjoyed playing the Switch. It was a
Absolutely.
pleasurable experience. I was like, yeah, I'll buy a few more games, and then I finished that game. I got more stuff to play. But
Dude.
now, the bitter taste of what Nintendo's done is kind of lingering. I'm like, yeah, I don't even want to play my original Switch anymore. It's put
I
me
think
off it because there are so many more options.
mm,
It's They've got to put their best foot forward. They've got to be pro-consumer to encourage people to stay within their ecosystem. Because
exactly.
once you're in the ecosystem, it's inevitable you're going to spend money there because they've got a lot of great things to offer. Create a good platform and offer games at a reasonable price, and people will stay there and keep spending. But if you nickel and dime people, if you kind of squeeze money out of them, you're just going to turn them off, turn them onto
Yeah.
another platform. And Nintendo will always have a strong market. They have a massive market share because they have IPs that they've built up for decades. Mario is more recognizable than Mickey Mouse to parts of the world. Some kids, like younger kids, if you show them a picture of Mickey and Mario, they'll know Mario, they won't know Mickey Mouse. That that hurt my brain the first time I heard that. I mean, the idea was absurd, but it is the world we live in now. Gaming is the world's biggest pastime, bigger than movies and bigger than music. Not
Yeah.
always, but it has become because it's allowed for everyone to play however they want to play. If you're just playing on your smartphone, with little mini games on your break, boom, you're still paying, and occasionally you might drop a buck or two on that game, so you're paying as
Mm.
well. And if you're more of a serious gamer, you might pick up a current gen console, or you might build yourself a goddamn PC to play. But all these people are doing it the way that they prefer, restricting
That is a
people,
freedom.
preventing people from engaging with the content that they want in the way that they want, just encourages black markets. All you're doing is just
Yeah.
encouraging a black market. So bricking people's consoles is going to restrict them because they were like, oh, well, I don't want to make the wrong mistake. I don't want it to be outside of my control. I mentioned in an earlier video that during the Dead Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, I think Dark Souls 3 period, people were hacking their characters, going into other people's games because there was a multiplayer ability. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to my buddies. It's just like you go into random person's level games, and you could PvP them, you could fight them. But what was happening is that the company was trying to crack down on hackers. So everyone that the hacker attacked with their broken character was also being having their account taken down because they had the metadata of a hacked character. They weren't hacking, they were just legitimate people. And I think that it's only a matter of time before someone tries to do a game, I don't know, maybe like Duskbloods, which is from software and is going to be multiplayer. Someone figures out a way to hack that, and it's just going to be a cascading thing where they're not just going to take down their game, they're going to take down their console. It'll be like cancer. All it takes is one popular game to start doing that, and this will reach a critical mass.
But don't preach, man. I tell you, but no, I should say preach. Actually, preach on. This is it. Oh my God. I mean, you know, what I think the good news is, I mean, we're in a 10-minute bracket,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna say the good news is, I think that Nintendo still has time to right this ship.
Yeah, it's early days on the Switch 2. It's
Mm,
still early days, and we've had companies step forward, stumble, and try to right themselves, but it does leave a bad first impression. I
that's
mean,
the
a lot
thing.
of people have never played Cyberpunk. Currently, Cyberpunk is a fantastic game. It's even on, the deluxe versions on the Switch too, which is playing really well apparently. But I remember the Cyberpunk 2077 release. I remember the awful, awful reviews, the bugs, the brokenness, and ever since then, it's left a. You only get one first impression,
Mm,
and I think this might hamper Nintendo long term. If they could right the ship, of
mm,
course they could. If they could bring out a steady stream of, first party IPs, give us a 3D Mario, give us a new Zelda, give us, Metroid Prime 4. Finally, but they can right this ship, but the fact that they think they have the right to my console.
yeah, I think that this is why I mean, like you said, the Brazil. I was hoping it Brazil would win ultimate, but I guess you brought the truth to the matter. It's unlikely, you know. I just hope. I mean, Nintendo lost lawsuits before, like the whole Donkey Kong. No, no, that was more, somebody goes to sue Nintendo over King Kong versus Donkey Kong. Nintendo won because it Warner Brothers, wasn't it? Yeah, but
Yeah, because it
yeah,
was the King Kong.
yeah.
But that was
But I
years
mean,
ago. That was a long time ago. But yeah, it was. Companies have sued over licensing and characters. I mean, Capcom tried to sue another company over their fighting game because they said it was too similar to Street Fighter, and they said, look, you don't have the patent on Japanese guy fighting.
yes, I remember that
You
one.
you you can control your character. You cannot control an archetype, and it's the same for a lot of things. Like, well,
Mm,
it's how Nintendo has tried to wrangle its lawsuit of Pal World. They
that's
haven't
another one.
attacked the Monster Hunter aspect. It's
Mm,
the specific shape of the mechanic. Like, you can't throw a ball. We have the
mm.
patent on throwing a ball, but
Bloody
if
hell.
they do just have another method, then that's
Mm,
fine. I mean, Monster Rancher was an old monster raising game, but you used CDs. You loaded the game on the console, and then you put a CD in the CD drive. It read the
mm.
CD and created a random monster from the data, and that was fun. Not a great
Oh,
game, but
oh.
good idea.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was gonna say, what's it gonna take? Is it gonna take a freak off level of allegations to take down Nintendo? But I mean, that didn't work
But
either.
I don't
But
want to take them down. But I don't want to
yeah,
take
I'm
Nintendo
not.
down.
No,
I want them
that's
to. I
what I'm
want
saying.
them to right the ship. I want
Me too.
them
Yeah,
to do this.
yeah.
And if maybe there's stuff going on behind the scenes. Maybe they're not in great straits. Maybe they've made some poor decisions. Maybe the new guy is just kind of overwhelmed by it
Mm,
and is forgetting the very very consumer friendly actions that Nintendo has taken over the years to build their brand. I mean, Nintendo is the company where the management took a pay cut during Wii U.
that's
I
the thing.
don't
Who hired
think
this guy?
that they would do that now. I don't feel like they're the kind of people who would take a pay cut to support the game development.
this is dumb. I mean, I think you wonder who the hell is this guy and who hired him and who vetted him. And but oh well,
Wow.
maybe they want him. Nintendo want more penny pinchers in the
Well,
in the
there's a
team.
lot more pennies on the table now. There's a
Yeah,
lot more
yeah.
money on the table, and they've got a lot more outgoings. They've got a lot more debts. So I
You
don't
know what?
begrudge them for trying to make a buck. I just
That's the thing.
begrudge them for making a buck over the customer.
You know, in the world of, and I've come to realize in the games of 4D chess and corporate politics, if you will, I understand the whole point of not exposing your hand. I'm sure there may be, but that's the thing. On one hand, you don't want to be blindly giving someone the benefit of the doubt when they're just doing wrong and say, no, no, this is the 4D chess move. I know one day it's going to pay off. But wait a minute, you're just screwing yourself up. So it's like,
That's true.
so I know, on one hand, I'm thinking, I want to give the benefit of the doubt. On the other hand, I'm thinking, at least you deserve a black eye from the consumers to say, you don't deserve, you should, no. It's in like, we're not playing along unless we get some transparency. Are you doing this for the theme parks?
Hmm.
And let us know. We will be happy to. Why don't you go create a theme park fund? I know it sounds like kind of puerile, but believe it or not, Nintendo has that much support that people will pay money for the theme. I bet you, anyway, if Nintendo said, we want to do a special deal, this money for this will go towards the theme parks coming, people pay money.
Yeah.
And just not, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, if you just be transparent, for goodness sake, I stop trying to, you know, I said like the cape, the Dracula cape.
Nintendo. I mean, I recall. I remember when Nintendo released a video that was them apologizing to the consumers. They said, "Hey, we've been working on Metroid Prime 4. It's not where we want it to be. We're not happy with it. We don't want to release the game the way it is. So we're going to go take it right back to the step one. We're going to take the game all the way back to original development and start from scratch. And we're sorry, but that means the game's going to take a lot longer to be released. I mean, they announced Metroid Prime 4 quite early on in the Switch lifespan, and we had the entire life of the Switch for without getting that game. And every year, E3 or the Treehouse, the directs come out, and people are like, "Where's Metroid Prime 4? Where's Metroid Prime 4?" And they're like, "Nothing, nothing, nothing, nothing." For years, dead silence. But they established, they were doing it. People got excited, and then a year or two later, they went, "We're sorry, it's not what we want." And while a lot of fans were angry that they were going to have to wait longer, I think everybody respected them for that level of transparency, for just coming out and going, "Yo, it's not good. We're not happy with it. We're going to start again." Okay,
Yeah,
you know what?
transparency,
We
man.
want a good game. We want a game that's worthy of the pedigree of the title. This is a Metroid game, for God's sake. This is a first-party tentpole IP. One of the big three, one of the big IPs that Nintendo's famous for. They want to make it the best it can be. Okay, yeah, all right. Take the time you
Exactly.
need, make it good. And I'm looking at the videos now. Metroid Prime 4 looks fantastic. It looks absolutely amazing, and I'm very excited to get my hands on it. But yeah, just come out and be honest with us. People will respect it. If the
That is
company's
it.
in trouble, come out and say so. You know,
Good.
but you're right. Companies need to play cards through their hands. They need to put their best foot forward because every time there is a perceived bump, people jump ship. They take stocks out of the company. The company's stock
Yeah.
price tanks. That means
Yeah,
it's
you're dealing
just
with a
they
lot of
lose a lot of
investors.
value.
If they do that, they're
It's
legally obliged
and
to.
the world is
Mm.
a turbulent place right now. We're not living through a safe, comfortable age. The last time we had that kind of stability was the 90s. Ever since the 2000s hit and those towers fell, the world really hasn't been financially very secure. It's been going up and down, and
True, true.
it's just we live in a different time now. And if they think what they're doing is right for their company, maybe long term, it will. But if Nintendo introduces a bad practice, it just encourages other companies to do the same. When they raise their
Mm.
price, other companies raise their price. Because if Nintendo can get away with it, other companies can get away with it too. And this kind of, oh, you can buy it but you don't own it thing, I think this is the portent of a lot more down the line.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. People, thanks so much for coming by. Thanks, Nima Dan.
Yeah.
After this long traveling vacation, we'll see. Okay, next week. Oh, by the way, sorry, people. Next week we may, I think, we'll most likely have a new guest coming, new face, and yeah, this is part of the reason why I'm not. No way, I'm not rooting for Nintendo.
1 minute.
Yep, and yep, just keep your
Yeah, next week,
keep
check
your
it out.
people.
Hopefully, you got a new guy. He's very, very exciting. Can't talk about it, but
Yep.
very exciting.
That is it.
All right,
Thank you again, Dan. I'll catch you next time. Peace.
next time. Peace.